So guys, just a warning about today's video. I am extremely irritated because I've been trying to recover a piece of the footage for a long time. It's literally the longest chunk of the video. It's going to be the first half of the video, so I apologize for the inconvenience. The screen is going to be cut off short and not like fit to the full size, so if that bothers you, I apologize, but I will try to do better in the future. I don't have time to record this part to get it up by the time that I wanted to. But I hope that you can stick by me. I promise you the content of what I have to say is really important, and I hope that the story is more important to you than the aesthetic of the video. But I apologize. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So today I have a really big story to tell. It's the reason why I'm holding this little cutie on my lap, and the reason why I am now a stay-at-home mom as a full online college student at the age of 20. So, last year around this time, September, I met my now boyfriend and dad of my child. So, I will say that I am not going to fully disclose all of the details of our relationship and our story, but I am willing to paint a pretty good picture to help other people that might be in a similar situation and need hope that everything is going to be okay, and you got this, I've got this, we all got this, and God is still in our corner. No matter how our story was unfolded, everything happens for a reason, and God has purpose for it all. So, last year around this time, I was a sophomore in college, technically a junior, but I'm not gonna, we're not here to talk about that. But I was living in a scholarship home, and that's a story for another day, y'all. That scholarship house was absolutely atrocious. Don't recommend it for anyone. Southern Scholarship Foundation, I'm calling you out. I'm bringing you up to the podium. I'm bringing you up to the podium. They made my life a literal living hell while I was pregnant. Now, granted, nobody knew, but that's besides the point. They were putting me through hell regardless, and I was going insane. But that's a story for another day, like I said. So anyways, I was living there, and my boyfriend was living on his own. Well, he was living with his friends in an apartment. So basically how we would see each other is he would so okay, this might be a little bit confusing because I know when I told my family at first they were like, "Huh?" But I promise you, even if it is like confusing to you, I promise you it makes perfect sense. Just try to follow along. So basically, my boyfriend was doing college like hybrid. So he was doing it online and also in person. But his college was not in Tallahassee, where we were. So I was living in Tallahassee as a full time college student, kind of like off campus, but not really. It was on campus. But like I said, it was a scholarship house. But he was living in an apartment with his friends, and he was living there because personal reasons he just wanted to move in with them. But his school was located in Orlando, back at home. So he would travel to his family home during the weekdays and take his classes that he needed to take in person, and then on the weekends he would be back in Tallahassee and I would go over to his place to spend time with him. So on one of these weekdays when he was not, sorry, my phone, when he was not in Tallahassee, I started to feel symptoms. And now these are not common symptoms that you hear of when you think like, oh, I'm pregnant, you know? I don't think these are necessarily talked about, and that's why I'm including it in this video. So one of them was, and I'm gonna try to keep this as like not invasive to my privacy as possible, but I was going through a situation down south, and I was very confused because I knew that I was definitely tested. I didn't have any sort of like STD situation going on, and I was a little bit confused as to like what was going on. But I've looked it up like after the fact, and it seems like whenever this can happen sometimes, like it's a foreign object that is, oh, not a foreign object, a foreign situation that's going on with your body, and your body just doesn't know how to react. So a dozen of things, a number of things can happen to you, and that's basically what was happening to me. I was freshly pregnant, and my body just didn't know what to do. So one of those things was making me believe that I could possibly like have a UTI or something, but that wasn't the case. I was just pregnant. But that was the first thing that was going on. The second thing that was going on was I was starting to feel like sick, like a cold sick.
I can't go out. I'm sick.
Not nauseous, like they say, like you've experienced in the first couple of weeks, the first trimester. Like I felt like I had a cold. And then the last thing was I was having like tooth problems. This came a couple of weeks down the road, like right before I affirmatively figured out that I was pregnant. But I was having like really bad toothaches, but that just happened to be that my wisdom teeth, like all four of my wisdom teeth were coming in at the same time. I know, what are the odds? And then on top of that, I had like an extra wisdom tooth in one spot. Weird, of course, but okay, hey guys, it's me again. So I just wanted to interject because I left out a piece of the story here, which is kind of very vital to why I figured out that I was pregnant. So I literally did not get my period. My period was late. I've been having my period since I was 14 years old this summer, like going into 8th grade. Hold on, I might have been 13. Yeah, I was 13 years old going into 8th grade. And ever since then, my periods have been very regular. They've been exactly like 3 to 4 days, no problems. Like it was the fact that I missed my period, like by one day it was late. I was like, oh, that's not normal. And every day that went by, I was like, yeah, that's not normal because it's so like on the dot for me. So that's a big indicator as to why I knew I was pregnant. This was all happening to me at once. And so, you have something to say, baby? Okay, she might be a little bit fussy, y'all, so I think I'm going to feed her while we have this little story. Okay, y'all, so I'm currently breastfeeding her right now. That's why my shirt is bunched up like this, but we're gonna try to continue this story before she gets a little bit too out of my control. So basically, all these things were happening to me at once, and when he came back up to Tallahassee, I was very like nervous to tell him. Oh wait, let me back up. So actually, I also live in Central Florida, just like 40 or so minutes away from Orlando. So when I went back down, I was going back down with my best friend who also lives in my hometown. And so I actually was in Orlando that week whenever he was in Orlando. So we met up and we saw each other. And during that time, I was experiencing those symptoms, but I was very scared to share like what I thought was going on. After like some time, I was like, okay, my body is like attacking itself, and this is not normal for me. I'm a very healthy individual. I rarely get sick. Like, all of these things are aligning, and just something doesn't seem right to me. But I was very like, I didn't want to tell him all of this and scare him off. Like, not in the sense of like he would just leave me. I never thought that of him. He has a great character, and I knew that from the beginning. So that wasn't what I was scared of, but I was scared of speaking it into fruition and it being like real life. So I wasn't really saying anything. I was a little bit like off that week, and I thought he noticed, and I think he did, but he was trying to like keep everything together, and so was I. So we go back up to Tallahassee, and me and my friend, and he follows suit a couple of days later. And by the time he gets to Tallahassee, I have made up my mind that I'm going to voice what I fear was going on. And so I told him everything that I was experiencing. I was like literally walking around the subject, like dropping hints so like he could like say it before I had to. Um, and then I was like, okay, yeah, So I believe that I could possibly be pregnant, and this is what I like fear, you know. So we're gonna have to take a pregnancy test, and yeah, guys. So for me, this is new. This was new. I had only been in one other relationship before him. My very first relationship at the age of 19. I hadn't kissed anyone before the age of 19. I hadn't had sex with anyone before the age of 19. I literally did not date all of middle school, high school, and normal stuff that people do. So, this is what I mean when I said that, like, I didn't think this would happen to me because given my life story, it just didn't make any sense. And when people figured out that I was pregnant, like my friends, everybody was shocked and surprised because it just doesn't make any sense of like, oh my gosh, what are the odds that this happened? Exactly, but like I said, pregnancy can happen to anyone. It's all in God's plan. Things are meant to happen the way they're supposed to happen. And that's my belief. Whether that's your belief or not, please keep it respectful in the comments because I'm not afraid to block and delete comments. But anyways, so I was very, very much surprised when we went back to his place. Well, first we stopped by our Walgreens or CVS, one of those, by his house, picked up pregnancy test. By the way, remember, this is my first time ever doing anything like this, so I'm just like, okay, I suspect this, but what are the odds that this pregnancy test is going to come out positive? But we go back to his place and I do it. I pee and, do what I need to do to make this test work. And guys, when I say immediately, after I pee on the stick and look at it, it reads positive. Impossible. 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 So you're probably thinking what I'm thinking, like, how could it have possibly worked that fast? Like, don't I have to wait 10 minutes for this thing to read? So first I'm thinking, okay, there is no way. Like, why is it reading like it's a strong yes? So in my like heart of hearts, from that moment on, I knew. But there was a little seed of doubt in me, like, well, what if the pregnancy, like, what if it's like defected or something? Like, I don't know. That was too fast, right? So I come out of the room and I show him the test, and it's a positive test. And I can tell that he's thinking, like, his mind is racing. He's thinking a bunch of things, but he doesn't really know what to say. So it's kind of, the room is quiet, and then I'm trying to like fill up the room with the awkward silence, like, hey, I think I'm just gonna take another one. Like, it could possibly be wrong, but I'm not really sure. Like, I think that I could be pregnant. Just to give it another shot, I retake the pregnancy test. So I take it again, and the exact same thing happens the exact same way. Within seconds, it reads as positive. And I think at this moment we knew. And so we sat for quite a minute and we were talking about what we wanted to do, how we wanted to handle the situation. So at this point in time, I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I was scared at the fact of everybody else's reactions in my life. Because like I said, I've always been a good kid. I've always, like, everyone's just had so much faith and hope in me and my future. And I just knew that the reactions that everybody was going to have was going to be very dramatic because it was not expected or foreseen. I even said myself back in high school, I think like the last day of school, I was talking to my friends and I was like, guys, I'm not having children until I'm 30, after I've had my successful law school like experience, and I'm like, have my law degree and I'm traveling the world and doing all these things. Like, y'all, I didn't want children until another 10 years from now. And I remember even then everybody's like, no, like you're gonna want children when you're younger. And I was like, no, I'm not. Um, but look what the Lord blessed me with. But anyways, so I just knew that my family, like, they were going to be disappointed. And I didn't really know how to handle that, y'all. Guys, it's a different type of hurt when you've had so much going for you and so much like people always telling you you're bright, you're gonna go places, you're gonna do this, you're smart, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you have such a amazing life, strong life ahead of you. And to have that being written over you for your whole life for 20 years, well, 19, almost 20 years of your life, and then to have something like this happen to you, it's crushing. It's soul crushing because you feel like your life could potentially be over, or at least everybody else's perception of your life. They perceive that your life is over. And like it's a huge mistake. And I, like I said, I'm always a firm believer that things happen for a reason. And this was happening to me for a reason. And yeah, it is. So I was like, after some thinking, after some time, we were going over our options. And because of these things that I was, projecting onto everybody else, potentially projecting onto me, if that makes sense, I was like, I don't think that I want to keep the baby. And my boyfriend was the best during this whole process. He was like, whatever you want is what we're going to do because it's your body. It's honestly, at the end of the day, it's your decision. Okay, y'all, so back to the story. I apologize for my dad who is speaking like Sonic Boom right now.
My name is Coach Boomer. You may know me as Sonic Boom.
But I'm going to try to finish up the story as fast as I can because my phone's gonna die anyways. Fast forward to homecoming time. It's around late October and I'm being eaten up inside by guilt. I want to tell my mom what I'm going through, but I'm so incredibly scared of the judgment and honestly being disowned. I didn't think that my mom would disown me, but I did think that I thought my parents would have a way different reaction to the situation than they would because they are Christians, they're very religious, and this is something that they would never wish on my life, and I knew that, and I was very scared of it. I also didn't want to bring the family shame because, as you guys know, in a lot of Christian households, and especially Black Christian households, the family image is everything, and I knew how important that was, and I didn't want to bring that upon them after everything they've done for me. So it was really hard, but one day I was in my room and my best friend was like just had went to the bathroom, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this time to talk to my mom and tell her what's up. And I did the exact same thing that I was doing with my boyfriend. I was kind of like skip hopping around the topic. I didn't really want to bring it up, but I wanted to hint at it. And she had known that I had been sick for a little minute, and I was like telling her on the phone, like, so I've been sick for a while. Like, yeah, like it sucks. I'm still sick. And I kept bringing that. I kept going to that point, like, I'm sick, I'm sick. And I said it so much so to the point where I was like, okay, she is not getting this. And I think I brought it up like one more time in the conversation, and she was like, Serenity, like, are you pregnant? And there was kind of just like a pause, and I was like, yeah. And there was a long silence, and I knew like in that moment that her world probably had come crashing down. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I told her. And she finally stopped the silence and was like, you know what? Like, obviously, this is one I wouldn't want to wish on you. I didn't want this for you, but now that you're here in the situation, like, you have our support. We're going to work through this. Like, everything's going to be okay. You need to come down back home this weekend. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I was so ready to get out of that toxic household environment. Y'all, I'm telling you, the story time is coming. But, guys, but, anyways, I was like, yes, I am coming back home. So even though I was kind of scared, like to be back home with my parents, and potentially like things could change, like they're being nice now, but what if they're putting on a front and they're gonna like scream at me when I get home? But I was still like, okay, at least I'm going home. I needed that. So I went home, and like the following week after homecoming week, I was there the entire week. And I just spent time to just basically just cleanse out everything, just relax, clear my mind, make like a sound decision on what I wanted to do. I had a conversation with my mom, and it went really good. And by the end of the week, I knew like I'm keeping the baby. I don't want it to seem like my mom or my parents like coerced me into keeping the baby. Obviously, they are Christian. They're always going to be pro-life. But besides that point, my mom made it very clear to me that whatever my decision was going to be, she was going to stand behind it and support me. And that couldn't have made me feel any much better than I could ever feel. Honestly, that might have been like the most thankful I was in my life to hear something like that, like to hear that I have my parents' support verbally through their mouths. Like, they've always supported me, but I haven't really had that like said a lot. And I think like saying and speaking things out is something that is not really done so much in our family. And I really appreciated that in that moment. I decided that I'm going to keep her. And I now had to tell my boyfriend. Now, remember, my boyfriend was supportive about anything that I was going to choose. So I was not scared to tell him in the slightest, but I did want to gauge his reaction because I was leaning, well, we were both leaning towards not keeping the baby before I went down back home. And so I was now about to tell him, like, actually, psych, like, I'm keeping my baby. So I told him, and his reaction was exactly how I thought it would be. He was like, okay, that's what you've chosen to do, and we're gonna stick through this. I'm gonna stick by you, and we're gonna make this work, and we've got this. So now my plan was to finish out the semester up in college in Tallahassee. So that would be like around December, around my birthday time, I would be heading back home. But up until then, I was going to be at the scholarship house, and my boyfriend still had his same schedule going on. He would drive back down to Orlando for school and then come back up on the weekend. And that was really hard for me because I needed someone like to go do this with. And I had my best friend at the time. And I think a lot of it was just, it was a lot. It was a lot for everyone. And she was, she knew the situation. She was definitely like supportive, but she couldn't fully understand the volume of the situation. It just didn't feel real. It didn't feel real to her. It didn't feel real to my friends. It didn't feel real to a lot of people. Like I said, it just seems so out of left field for me. So I don't blame her at all. Like, she had her own school and college to go through, and she was my roommate, and she saw me going through the stuff that I was going through, and she helped as much as she could. But for the most part, like, I felt like I needed more support, and my boyfriend was the one who was giving it to me because we were going through the situation together. So that situation definitely brought us stronger and closer together. Like, I had never bonded with anyone like that in my life, and I'm so grateful to him because he was a literal angel during my whole pregnancy, and especially my first trimester, because I was sick as a dog, y'all. That I will probably tell that story in another video. But like maybe a first trimester recap. second trimester, third trimester recap. Like I might do those, but long story short, my first trimester was insane. I was sick, like nauseous every single day. I would literally vomit like more than 3 times a day. I was losing weight rapidly throughout the whole first trimester. I lost over 25 pounds. I visibly looked different, and I couldn't keep any of my meals down. I couldn't even keep water down because this girl was doing it to me. She was doing me a big one. And my boyfriend was like really taking care of me as much as he could be there. He would drive up to see me. He would spend the whole, like, instead of me coming over to his place now, he would come over to my place, and we would just like honestly just lay in bed all day because that's all I was up to doing. I wasn't even showing up to all of my classes anymore. I think I would only show up to this one specific class that was like really easy for me to get to up until a certain point, and then I wouldn't even go to that one anymore. But that's a story for another day. Once again, I know I keep saying that, but there's just too much in here that I can't get to right now. My microphone is flashing red, so I'm assuming that means it's dying. This is actually the first time that it is doing this since I've had it, and I have not charged it at all. So the battery on these things actually lasts quite a while. I totally recommend these microphones. I'll link it down in my description. Anyhow, I'm just going to turn off the microphone and we're going to speak regularly. Needless to say, that first trimester was very rough for me. And like I said, my boyfriend did everything he could to make it better for me, and I really appreciated that, and it really built our bond closer together. And I knew that the decision that I made was correct. Like, this was the right decision for me and for us. And honestly, I think this was the path that we all needed to take in order to, you know, for God's plan. I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Like, I can't believe this is happening to me out of all people. Like, I didn't even live a lifestyle like this for me to be like in this situation. But that's why it's important to know that no matter how many times you do what, or, if you do it 50 times or if you do it one time, there's still a possibility that you can become a baby. And I was definitely surprised that, the odds, like, what are the odds that this is happening to me? Like, but hey, it happened. And that was also part of the reason why I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't God's plan. Like, I was so easily able to get pregnant, and I hadn't ever like gone down this path before. Like, this is my first time doing stuff like this. Like, you know, maybe this is. Hello? Anyways, maybe this is happening for a reason. So, anyways, guys, that is today's story time. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want me to answer some questions about like how my pregnancy was, or how I am dealing with having a baby now, I promise you that they will get answered in the future, in future videos. But if there's anything specific that you wanted to know that I didn't say, like of this timeline in the story, please ask me in the comments below, and I'll make sure to get to them if it's not too invasive. But anyways, that's all for today's video. I just want to end this video by saying that if you are a young mom, or you are just now finding out that you're pregnant, just know that I'm supporting you. If you ever need any sort of light in your life and not constant negativity, I know that people feel like they have to give input on your life. And sometimes they're trying to help, but sometimes their words can be hurtful, and it's not what we need in the situation. And at the end of the day, even if it wasn't gone about the way that they wanted it to go about for you, or, it's not an ideal, perfect world. Okay, guys, so the camera just cut it off because my phone died, but we have recharged my phone just for this outro. So, like I was saying, I believe in you guys. If you need anything, please come to me. You can always find me at my socials, and if you need to chat, I'm here for you. Of course, here for you too. And thank you so much for watching today's video. Like I said, any comments or positive comments or any questions that you may have about my journey as a young mom, I'm here to answer them. Bye.
Now when they see us in the streets, all they wanna do is take pics, and I'm like, okay.